I remember the night like it just happened. I was lying on the cold bathroom floor, blood dripping from my nose, my ribs aching from another one of his kicks. He stood over me, his eyes wild, spitting hateful words I don't even want to repeat. I could barely move. My heart was racing faster than my thoughts. As I gasped for air, all I could think was, why did my family do this to me? They made me marry this monster. Yes, they did. My own mother. My father. My uncle. Everyone. They dressed me up in white, sang songs, and smiled while they handed me over to a man they barely knew. A man I didn't know. A man who now treats me like a punching bag. But I wasn't always in pain. There was a time I was full of life. I had dreams. I had someone I truly loved. Someone they made me leave behind. Before I take you there, let me introduce myself. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old, and I'm speaking to you from Atlanta, Georgia. If you're just joining me, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and click the notification bell so you don't miss the rest of this story. And hey, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing which part of the country you're in. Now let's go back to where it all began. I was just 17, still in high school, and living with my family in a small town in Mississippi. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor either. My father worked as a mechanic, and my mother stayed at home with me and my little brothers. Life was simple back then: church on Sundays, family dinners, chores after school. And then I met him. His name was Daniel. He was tall, with the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. He worked part-time at the grocery store near my school, and every day after classes I'd find an excuse to pass by just to see him. He was sweet. He was kind. He listened. We'd talk for hours about everything: music, books, our dreams. Mine was to become a nurse. His was to open his own auto shop one day. We were in love. The kind of young love that makes your heart flutter with every word, every touch, every shared secret. But my parents didn't like Daniel. Not because he was bad. No, he was good. Too good. But he wasn't their kind of good. He didn't come from money. He didn't come from the right church. He didn't belong to the family's tradition. My mother would say, "That boy has no future. You'll suffer with him." And my father would just grunt and say, "He's not one of us." I tried to hide our relationship, but in a small town nothing stays secret for long. One day my uncle saw us holding hands near the town square. That was the beginning of the end. The next night, my father called a family meeting. Everyone was there: my uncles, aunts, even my grandmother. They sat me down like I had committed a crime. I'll never forget my father's words. "You will stop seeing that boy, and you will marry the man we've chosen for you. His name is Charles. He comes from a respected family, and he's ready to take care of you." I said no. I screamed, I cried, I begged. But my voice meant nothing. To them, love was not important. Security was. Status was. My mother wept and said I was being ungrateful. My uncle shouted that I was embarrassing the family. My father raised his voice and said, "You will marry Charles or you're no longer my daughter." They locked me in my room for days. No phone. No school. No Daniel. And then came the wedding. I didn't smile. I didn't say "I do" with love. I said it with fear. I said it with the weight of betrayal in my chest. My heart was breaking, but no one cared. They clapped. They laughed. They danced. And I was married to a monster. Charles seemed okay at first. Quiet. Polite. But it was all a mask. Just 2 weeks after the wedding, I saw his true face. It started small. He grabbed my arm too tight when I said something he didn't like. He'd raise his voice over the littlest things. Then he began to disappear at night. He came home smelling like alcohol and perfume. When I asked him where he'd been, he slapped me. I told my mother. She said, "Men get angry. You just need to learn to calm him down." I told my father. He said, "It's your home now. Deal with it." No one helped me. Not a single person. The beatings got worse. He once burned me with a cigarette for talking back. Another time he locked me out in the freezing cold all night because dinner wasn't warm enough. I was trapped. But then something happened that changed everything. That night, yes, that night, I found something in Charles's jacket pocket. Something that would lead me down a dangerous path I could never come back from. Something that would make me question if I would even make it out of this marriage alive. What I found in Charles's jacket pocket was a small black notebook. Just something ordinary at first glance. But when I opened it, my hands began to shake. Inside were names. Women's names. First names, last names, addresses. And next to some of the names were check marks. Red check marks. I flipped through the pages in horror. There were more than 20 names. I didn't recognize any of them. But the addresses, they were all from towns close to ours. One page had the name Tanya Collins, deceased, written beside it in red ink. Another said, Sherry Daniels, broken jaw, no charges. I dropped the notebook like it was on fire. My mind was spinning. What was this? Who were these women? What did Charles do to them? Before I could think any further, I heard the front door slam. He was home. I kicked the notebook under the bed just in time as he came stomping into the bedroom. His shirt was half unbuttoned, belt hanging, the stink of alcohol trailing behind him. He looked at me like he was staring through me. "Dinner ready?" he asked coldly. I nodded, trying not to let the fear show on my face. I couldn't let him know I had seen that notebook. I walked past him quickly, heart pounding, trying to calm myself. In my mind, I kept seeing those names. Those check marks. Was I next? Was my name already in that book? Let me take you back for a moment, to how I ended up here. After that forced wedding, my life changed overnight. I moved into Charles's large house just on the edge of town. From the outside, it looked like a dream. A 2-story home with a white fence, roses blooming in the front yard. But inside it was a nightmare. The first 2 weeks were silent. Charles barely spoke to me. He'd go to work early, come back late, and barely looked my way. I thought maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be so bad. But that changed quickly. One night, I made spaghetti for dinner. He sat down, took one bite, and spit it out on the floor. "Is this garbage what your mama taught you to cook?" he sneered. I froze. I can make something else," I said. He stood up, dragged me out of the chair by my arm, and threw the plate against the wall. "You waste my money and feed me trash?" That was the first time he hit me. I cried all night. The next day, I called my mom. Her voice was cold. She said, "You're his wife now. Do your duty and make it work." I was alone. Days passed. The bruises grew. I began to walk with my head down, avoiding neighbors. I became a ghost in my own life. But every now and then, I'd think about Daniel. I hadn't heard from him since the day I was locked away. I didn't know if he was still in town or had moved on. But his face, his voice, kept me going when things got dark. Sometimes, I'd sit by the window and wonder what life would have been like if I'd run away with him. Maybe I should have. Then came the night of the town's summer fair. Charles insisted we go. He liked pretending we were the perfect couple in public. I wore a long dress to hide the bruises on my legs, and makeup to cover the ones on my cheek. I smiled when people looked, but inside I was screaming. That's when I saw him. Daniel. He was helping an old man fix a tire near the back parking lot. My heart nearly stopped. He looked up, and our eyes met. It was only for a second, but it felt like time froze. I looked away quickly. Charles was buying tickets. He didn't notice. But Daniel did. Later that night, as we were leaving, someone slipped a note into my hand. I looked around, but no one was there. I opened it in the car when Charles wasn't looking. It said, "I never stopped loving you. I'll wait behind the church tomorrow at 4 p.m. Tears filled my eyes. Hope flickered in my chest. Was this my chance? Could I finally escape? I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the notebook. The names. Daniel. Escape. I knew I had to be careful. I hid the notebook behind the toilet tank and left early the next morning, telling Charles the first was going to the market. I took the long route through town, checking to make sure no one followed me. At exactly 4 p.m., I made it behind the church. And there he was. Daniel. He looked older, more tired, but still him. Still kind. Still safe. We didn't speak at first. He just opened his arms, and I fell into them. For the first time in months, I felt warmth. Real warmth. We sat and talked for hours. He told me he'd tried to reach me, but my family blocked him. He'd come by the house, but they turned him away. After a while, he gave up and left town. But something brought him back. A feeling. A hope. I told him everything. About the abuse. About the notebook. His face turned dark. He's dangerous, Margaret. You need to get out. I nodded. Help me. He promised he would. We made a plan. 2 days. That's all we needed. He had a friend in Alabama who could hide me for a while, until we figured out the rest. I finally felt like I could breathe again. But just as we were getting ready to leave, I heard a voice. Cold. Cool. Familiar. Well, isn't this sweet? I turned around. It was Charles. Standing just feet away. A hammer in his hand. His eyes burning with rage. Charles's eyes were locked on us like a predator that had finally caught its prey. The hammer in his hand wasn't just a tool. It was a threat, a promise of pain. My body went numb. Daniel stood up quickly, stepping between me and Charles. You don't want to do this, Daniel said calmly, his voice steady even though I could see his fists clenching at his sides. Charles laughed. A low, cruel laugh that made my skin crawl. Oh, but I do, he hissed. You think I didn't know? You think I haven't seen the way she looks at you? I knew you were back in town. I just waited for her to sneak off like the snake she is. Don't you dare talk to her like that. Daniel barked. And that's when Charles lunged. He swung the hammer toward Daniel's head, but Daniel dodged just in time. The hammer smashed into the wall behind the church, splinters flying. I screamed and backed away, my heart beating so hard I thought it would explode. The two men wrestled in the dirt, kicking and punching. Charles was bigger, but Daniel was faster. He managed to knock the hammer away, but Charles caught him with a punch to the jaw that sent him to the ground. Stop! I cried. Please stop. Charles turned to me, breathing hard. You're mine, Margaret. You were given to me. You think you can just leave? His face twisted into something terrifying. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small and shiny, a knife. No. I screamed. Before he could move, Daniel tackled him from behind. They crashed to the ground again, rolling, fighting, kicking up dust. I scrambled to the hammer on the ground, hands shaking. Then I heard it. A deep grunt. A gasp. The sound of something sharp cutting into flesh. And silence. I turned around. Daniel stood over Charles, panting. The knife was in Daniel's hand now. Charles was on the ground. Motionless. His shoulder was bleeding, but he was still breathing. Daniel looked at me with wide, scared eyes. We have to go. Now. We left him there. I know how that sounds. But I wasn't thinking clearly. I was in shock. And more than anything, I was terrified. We got in Daniel's car and drove off. We didn't speak. I just stared out the window as my whole world changed in an instant. He took me to a small, rundown cabin in rural Alabama, owned by a friend of his named Paul. Paul was kind and quiet. He gave me a place to sleep and food to eat. He didn't ask questions. The first few nights, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Charles's face, twisted in rage. I kept wondering, would he come after me? Was he alive? Did he tell anyone where I went? Daniel tried to comfort me, but he was scared too. He knew we didn't have much time before someone came looking. A week later, we found out. Paul came into the cabin one morning with a newspaper. On the front page was Charles's face, and mine. Wife of local businessman missing after alleged attack. Police searching for suspect in churchyard assault. There was a reward for information. And worse, Charles was alive. He told them I attacked him without warning, Daniel said, slamming the paper on the table. He left out the part where he had a knife. I sat down slowly. What do we do now? We run, Daniel said. Tonight. That night, we packed what little we had into Daniel's truck and drove west toward Texas. I didn't know what our future would look like. I didn't even know if we had one. But I knew I couldn't go back. On the road, Daniel held my hand. I'll protect you, he said. No matter what. I wanted to believe him. I needed to. We crossed into Texas just after sunrise. We found a small motel and stayed there for the night, using fake names. Daniel said we'd lay low for a while, maybe try to get new IDs. He had friends who could help. But the next morning, I woke up to find him gone. The truck was gone. Our money gone. I was alone. Again. I sat on the bed, stunned, trying to breathe. I told myself maybe he went out for gas. Maybe he'd be right back. But he didn't come back. Not that morning. Not that night. Not ever. And that's when I realized. I didn't just run from one monster. I ran right into the hands of another. I sat on the edge of the motel bed for hours, staring at the door, waiting for it to open. I kept telling myself he would come back. That Daniel had just gone to get food, or call someone for help. That he had a reason. But deep down I knew. He was gone. He left me. My heart sank deeper than it ever had before. How could he do this? After everything we'd been through. After he promised to protect me, to get us out, to help me heal, how could he just disappear? I didn't even have my purse. No ID. No money. Just the old dress I was wearing and a room I couldn't pay for past that night. I felt numb. Stupid. Betrayed. And worst of all, alone. That morning the motel manager knocked on the door. "Checkout's in an hour, miss." I forced a smile. "Yes, sir, I'll be out soon." But where would I go? I waited until the last minute. I wrapped my things in a plastic motel laundry bag, tied my shoes tight, and walked out the front door into the burning Texas sun. I wandered through town with no destination. Every face I saw made me nervous. What if they recognized me? What if someone called the police? What if Charles found me? I ended up behind a diner, sitting beside a dumpster with my back against the wall. I hadn't eaten in almost 2 days. My stomach growled, but my pride refused to beg. And that's when she found me. A small woman, maybe in her 60s, with gray curls tucked into a baseball cap and flour on her apron. She stepped out the back door of the diner, looked at me, and said gently, "Sweetheart, are you okay?" I didn't respond. My throat tightened, and tears filled my eyes. But I didn't speak. She came closer, squatted down beside me, and offered a bottle of water. "My name's Rose," she said. "You don't look like you've eaten in a while." Still I said nothing. But I took the water. And when I started drinking, I broke. The tears came out in a flood. I cried like a baby. Rose just sat there beside me and let me. She didn't ask questions. She didn't judge. She just said, "Come inside. Let me feed you." I followed her. That diner saved me. Rose was the owner. She let me stay in a small storage room behind the kitchen. She gave me food, clothes, even let me help out with dishes. In return, I cleaned up, stocked supplies, and did whatever small tasks I could manage. Every night after closing, she'd sit with me in the booth and pour us 2 cups of tea. "You got secrets," she'd say. "I can see it in your eyes. When you're ready to talk, I'm here." It took me almost a week before I opened up. But when I did, I told her everything. About Charles. About the forced marriage. The notebook. The abuse. The fight behind the church. Daniel. The escape. And how he'd left me behind. She didn't gasp. She didn't say, "Oh my God." She just nodded slowly and said, "Men like that, they don't just hurt. They hunt. You need to be careful, baby girl. Very careful." It felt good to be heard. To be believed. Rose reminded me of the grandmother I never had. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. But safety never lasts, does it? One night, 2 weeks after I'd arrived at the diner, I was taking out the trash through the back alley like always. It was quiet. Peaceful even. I looked up at the stars, trying to imagine a new life. A life where I could work, study, maybe even smile again. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Too heavy. I turned. And froze. Charles. Standing there at the end of the alley. His left arm in a sling. His face bruised and angry. "You didn't think I'd find you?" he whispered, his voice slicing through the night like a knife. "You thought running off with that coward would save you?" I dropped the trash bag. My knees shook. How did you? "You left a trail," he hissed. "You were on the news. Someone saw you in Alabama." I followed the pieces. I backed away, heart racing. "Leave me alone, Charles. You're my wife, Margaret. You belong to me." Suddenly, Rose appeared behind me. She had a broom in one hand and a phone in the other. You need to go, she told him firmly. Right now. Or I'm calling the cops. Charles laughed. Call them. She's mine. She's not. Rose stepped forward, not an ounce of fear in her voice. You've hurt her enough. You need to leave. Charles's eyes darted between us. I could see the rage bubbling inside him. But the phone in Rose's hand, the sirens he probably remembered from the first time, must have made him hesitate. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared at me one last time and whispered, "This isn't over." Then he turned and walked into the shadows. That night, Rose called a friend from a women's shelter 2 towns over. They picked me up the next morning and brought me to a hidden safe house. New name, new papers, new life. But even with all that, I never slept easy again. Because when a monster wants to find you, he will. And he did. 3 months later, just as I was starting to feel like maybe, just maybe, I could breathe again, the shelter's front door was forced open in the middle of the night. And what I saw, I'll never forget. The sound of the door being kicked and shook the entire house. It was past midnight. Most of us were already in bed at the shelter. I had just started drifting off when the crash jolted me upright. Screams echoed from the hallway. I jumped out of bed, heart slamming in my chest, and ran to the window, but it was too dark to see anything clearly. More crashes. Furniture breaking. Then, where is she? His voice. Charles. I gasped. My knees buckled. My worst nightmare was happening. He found me. I grabbed my coat, stuffed the only photo I had of my younger self into the pocket, and bolted for the back door. Down the hall, I heard 2 of the workers shouting at him to leave. More screaming. Then silence. The kind of silence that makes your bones go cold. Then I heard him again. I'm not leaving without my wife. I rushed into the back pantry and pushed open the small cellar door that led to the emergency exit. The shelter director, Mrs. Porter, had shown us that path the day I arrived. I never thought I'd actually need it. I crawled down the dark tunnel, scraping my knees against the rough floor. Heart pounding so loud I thought he'd hear it through the walls. At the other end was a locked hatch. I fumbled with the emergency key taped to the underside. Thank God it was still there. And pushed the door open into the woods behind the building. I ran. I ran like my life depended on it. Because it did. By dawn, I had made it to the next town, hiding in the back of a delivery truck until it stopped near a small gas station. My legs were trembling. My throat dry. But I was alive. I used the little cash Rose had given me weeks ago to buy a cheap burner phone and a pack of crackers. I sat on the curb outside, still shaking, staring at the people walking by. How many times could I start over? How many times could I run before there was nowhere left to hide? I knew I couldn't go back to the shelter. It wasn't safe. Nowhere was safe as long as he was out there. I called Rose. She answered on the first ring. Margaret. I couldn't speak at first. My voice cracked. He found me. He kicked the door in. I ran. Oh baby, her voice broke. Are you hurt? No, I whispered. But I think someone else might be. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something I didn't expect. You need to fight. What? I asked. You've been running long enough, sugar. This man, this monster, he's taking your peace, your home, your future. Are you gonna let him take your whole life? I stayed silent. I didn't know how to answer that. I've got a friend, she continued. Private investigator. Retired cop. Tough as nails. He helps women like you. I'll send him to you if you're ready. I took a deep breath. Then I said the hardest word of all. Yes. 2 days later I met him. His name was Jack. A tall, grizzled man with silver hair and eyes like steel. We met in a quiet diner 3 towns away from the shelter. I wore sunglasses and a hoodie. He slid into the booth without a word. Then placed a file on the table. I did some digging, he said. Your husband, Charles Fletcher. Wealthy family. Politically connected. But not squeaky clean. He opened the file. 3 other women have reported abuse. All silenced. 1 withdrew her case. 1 disappeared. 1 ended up in a mental facility. I felt sick. What about the notebook? The one I found. Wouldn't surprise me, Jack said. But unless we have it, we can't prove it. I hid it. I whispered. Behind the toilet tank. In his old house. Jack raised an eyebrow. Still got the keys? I shook my head. But I remember the layout. Every room. Every step. Then we're going back, he said flatly. I nearly choked. Are you crazy? He'll kill me if he sees me. We'll be careful, Jack said. You want to end this? That notebook is your key. That night I didn't sleep. My hands shook just thinking about going back to that house. The one where I bled. Where I cried. Where I lost pieces of myself every day. But Rose was right. I had run enough. We went 2 nights later. Jack drove a plain gray car with tinted windows. He parked 2 blocks away from Charles's house and handed me a black hoodie and gloves. You stay behind me. If anything goes wrong, we're out in 60 seconds. Understand? I nodded. The house hadn't changed. Same white porch. Same rose bushes. But the inside felt haunted. We broke in through the back door. Jack disabled the alarm in under 15 seconds. Clear, he whispered. We moved quietly, my heart hammering in my ears. Every step I took brought memories rushing back. The place where he first slapped me. The stairs he pushed me down. The floor where I slept crying after he locked me out. I led Jack to the guest bathroom on the 2nd floor. He never used this one, I whispered. I hid it behind the toilet. Jack nodded and carefully removed the tank lid. There it was. Wrapped in a plastic bag, still dry. Still there. He opened it. His eyes widened. This is it. This is everything. He flipped through page after page. Names. Injuries. Some marked paid. Others marked disappeared. This is gold, he said. Suddenly we heard it. A car door. Then another. Voices. Get down. Jack hissed, pulling me behind the door. Charles. He was home. With someone. Jack looked at me, eyes fierce. We're not getting caught. Follow my lead. But then, just as he spoke, we heard something we didn't expect. A woman scream. Not me. Someone else. From downstairs. Then a slam. Then silence. Jack's expression changed. He's not just a monster. He's doing it again. He handed me the notebook and pulled out his phone. I'm calling it in. We're taking him down tonight. But before he could dial, the doorknob turned. Charles was coming up. The doorknob turned slowly, too slowly. Charles was just on the other side. I couldn't breathe. My heart thudded so loudly, I was sure he could hear it through the door. Jack pushed me gently behind the bathroom door. Gun drawn but kept low, ready to move if needed. We heard his footsteps pause outside. Then silence. My entire body tensed. Please turn around. Please walk away. But he didn't. The door creaked open. Charles stepped into the bathroom. He hadn't noticed Jack yet. He didn't notice me either. His eyes scanned the room lazily as he walked toward the mirror, mumbling to himself. He splashed water on his face from the sink. His hands were stained with something dark. Jack made a quick hand gesture, wait. And then it happened. A loud knock came from the front door downstairs. 3 hard, urgent bangs. Police! Open the door. Charles froze. Jack acted instantly. He stepped out from behind the door, kicked it shut behind him, shoved Charles to the ground and pressed his knee to his back. Don't move. Jack barked. Charles screamed. Who the get off me? Jack pulled out his badge and leaned in. Private investigator. You're under citizen's arrest until the authorities arrive. You're done, Charles. It's over. I stayed behind the bathroom door, shaking. I heard boots stomping up the stairs. Moments later, 2 officers burst in, guns drawn. Hands up, one shouted. Jack raised his badge again. He's the one. You'll find a girl locked in a room downstairs. He's hurting them again. We've got evidence. The police cuffed Charles, who cursed and yelled, threatening everyone in the room. But no one listened. No one believed him anymore. 'Cause this time, I had proof. At the police station I gave my full statement. So did the girl they found downstairs. Her name was Haley, only 19 years old. She'd been living with Charles for 3 weeks after he lured her in with promises of a job and a better life. She had bruises on her arms and scars that hadn't fully healed. I handed over the notebook. It was now official evidence. That night, I sat in the waiting room, arms wrapped around myself. I was cold, exhausted, and emotionally drained. Jack sat beside me in silence. "You okay?" he asked finally. I nodded. "Yeah, I think. I think I will be." "Charles isn't getting out of this one," he said. "He's done." I looked down at my hands. So many girls. So many lives he ruined. Jack looked at me, his voice low. "You saved them." A single tear rolled down my cheek. I had saved them. Charles was charged with multiple counts of assault, unlawful imprisonment, and attempted murder. The notebook became the centerpiece of the case. Haley testified. So did I. It wasn't easy. Standing in court, looking him in the eye, telling the world what he did to me. But I did it. And the day the judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison, I finally felt free. But freedom didn't mean I was healed. Not yet. I stayed in a women's recovery home for 6 months. Went to counseling. Group therapy. I met others who had been through things I couldn't even imagine. And I finally told my story. Out loud. Fully. From beginning to end. And people listened. They cried. They stood up. And that's when something changed inside me. I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I had a voice. And I was going to use it. 1 year later, I stood behind a podium at a women's center in Atlanta, telling my story to over 100 women. Many of them survivors just like me. "My name is Margaret Fletcher," I said into the microphone, "and I'm a survivor of forced marriage and domestic abuse. My family made me marry a monster, but I made sure he would never hurt anyone again." Applause filled the room. I smiled. Not because I was proud of what happened to me, but because I had turned my pain into power. After the speech, a young woman came up to me. She couldn't have been more than 18. She whispered, "I think I'm with a monster too. Can you help me?" I took her hand. "Yes," I said. "I can." But just as I started building my new life, helping others, rebuilding my dreams, an unexpected letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Just a single page inside. Written in red ink. "You thought I was the only monster?" I froze. My hands trembled as I turned the letter over. And on the back, a photo of Daniel. I stared at the photo in my hands for what felt like forever. Daniel. The man I had loved. The man who helped me escape. The man who left me when I needed him most. There he was, standing beside a black SUV, laughing, wearing a dark leather jacket I didn't recognize. Behind him in the photo, taped to a window, was something that made my stomach turn. A missing persons flyer. The girl in the flyer? Haley. The same Haley Charles had locked up in his house. My breath caught in my throat. My thoughts scattered. What was Daniel doing near Haley's flyer? Was it just a coincidence? Was this photo recent? Was Daniel somehow involved? Then I remembered the letter. "You thought I was the only monster?" I felt sick. I called Jack immediately. He picked up on the first ring. "Margaret, I need you to come. Now." Jack arrived within the hour. I handed him the photo and the letter. He studied them carefully, face hardening with each second. "Where did this come from?" he asked. "It was in my mailbox. No return address. No stamps. Someone dropped it off." Jack narrowed his eyes. "This isn't just a warning. It's a message." I shook my head. "I don't understand. Daniel helped me. He fought Charles. He saved me." Jack set the photo down. "Did he though?" My heart clenched. Jack sat across from me. "Listen, when you told me he left you at that motel in Texas, I thought it sounded strange. Men don't just disappear like that after what you two went through. I've seen cases like that before. Guys who pretend to be rescuers, but they're just a different kind of predator." "No, iwisparat. He couldn't be. Not Daniel." Jack didn't answer. He just tapped the photo. "This SUV. I've seen it before." My blood ran cold. "Where?" "Outside Charles's house. 2 days before you and I broke in." Everything inside me sank. "Are you saying he was working with Charles?" "I don't know yet," Jack said. "But it's time we found out." That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on my porch, staring out into the dark, trying to process it all. How could I have been so wrong? Was Daniel another monster all along? I thought back to the first time we met. The boy with the warm smile. The long walks. The promises. But now every memory felt twisted. Every kind gesture felt suspicious. Suddenly I remembered something. The night we fled after Charles was stabbed, Daniel had thrown his jacket in the back of the truck. I had reached for a tissue from the pocket and felt something sharp. A key. When I asked him about it, he just laughed and said, "Spare key to a friend's place." But he'd looked nervous. And after he disappeared, I never saw that jacket again. I called Jack. "I remembered something," I said. "Daniel had a key. That night in the truck. It was small silver and had a number engraved on it. 2081. Jack was silent for a second. Then he said, "That could be a storage unit." He typed quickly on his laptop. "There's a facility near where you last saw him. Unit 2081 is still active. Rented under the name John D. It could be him." "Can we check it?" "I'm already on my way," he said. The next afternoon, Jack called me from outside the storage facility. "It's definitely connected to him," he said. "Same ID used to check and matches Daniel's fake name. I'm going in." He kept me on the phone as he unlocked the unit. Silence. Then I heard him breathe sharply. "Oh God. What is it?" I asked, pulse racing. "There are boxes. Files. Pictures. IDs. He's been collecting information on women for years. Margaret, some of the girls in here are on Charles's list." I covered my mouth with my hand, the room spinning. Daniel wasn't just a lost love. He wasn't just a coward. He was part of it. Jack kept talking. "There's more. Photos of Charles. Photos of you. Journals. He's been documenting everything." Why? Maybe he was watching for Charles. Maybe he was protecting him. Or maybe he was running his own game. The next words out of his mouth made my heart stop. "There's a note on one of the boxes." "What does it say?" I asked. Jack read it aloud. "If Margaret ever talks, use this. She'll keep quiet once she knows what really happened to her baby." I felt my entire body freeze. Jack, what did he mean? What baby? Silence. "Margaret," he said slowly. "Did you ever have a miscarriage? A pregnancy you didn't know about?" I tried to speak. I couldn't. Then a memory returned. The 3rd month of my marriage to Charles. I had collapsed in the bathroom from pain and bleeding. Charles had refused to take me to a hospital. He said I was just being dramatic. After that, I was never the same. Was I pregnant? Did I lose a child and never even know? "I think you need to come see this for yourself," Jack said. "Why?" I whispered. He hesitated. "Because there's a folder in here, labeled with your name. And inside." He paused again. "There's a birth certificate." I dropped the phone. Tears filled my eyes. Was it true? Did I have a child? Was it alive? Had they lied to me this whole time? And if so, where was my child now? I couldn't breathe. I had no words, no thoughts. My body went numb. My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone again. My heart pounding in my chest. "Jack," I whispered. "What does the certificate say? Is it real?" I could hear Jack's steady voice on the other end. "Margaret, I don't know yet. I haven't seen it fully. But it's from a hospital in your hometown. It's dated about 6 months before you married Charles." I gasped. The pieces clicked into place, but I couldn't make sense of them. I was so confused, so scared, I could hardly think. "No. Y whisperat." No, I was never pregnant. Margaret, Jack interrupted, his voice firm. "You need to come to the storage unit now. You need to see this for yourself." I didn't even hesitate. I grabbed my car keys, barely even registering what I was doing, and headed out. By the time I arrived at the facility, my head was spinning. I pulled into the parking lot and saw Jack standing near the entrance. The storage unit door open behind him. I could see the boxes he had spoken about, the files scattered on the floor. My heart felt like it was beating outside of my chest. I walked toward him, feeling a tightness in my throat. I didn't want to know the truth. I didn't know if I could handle it. "Margaret," Jack said quietly, his expression unreadable. "Come take a look." I swallowed hard and stepped forward, standing beside him as he pointed to the open folder. It was thin, aged with time, and a small photo peeked out from the top. I reached for the folder with trembling hands. Inside was a copy of a birth certificate, printed with my name and a name I didn't recognize. The name of a baby girl. My daughter. My heart slammed in my chest. I turned the paper over, my eyes scanning the details. Born on the day I was bedridden with pain after what I thought was a miscarriage. It was real. It wasn't a mistake. The child I had lost wasn't a phantom. She was real. Her name was Emma. I could barely breathe, my eyes blurring with tears as I scanned the document again. This wasn't just a baby. I had a child I never knew existed. I had been robbed of her. Robbed of the truth. Jack, I said, voice breaking. How could they do this to me? Why didn't anyone tell me? Why? Jack placed a hand on my shoulder. I don't know, Margaret. But I'm going to find out. The weight of the moment hit me like a freight train. I stared at the certificate, overwhelmed with anger, sadness, and confusion. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurt someone for what had been taken from me. For the life I never got to have. For the daughter I never got to meet. I couldn't hold it together anymore. The tears came hot and fast, blurring my vision. Jack stepped back, giving me space. I didn't know how long I stood there, clutching the birth certificate in my hands, but the pain inside me felt like it would never go away. You were never supposed to know, Margaret, Jack said, breaking the silence. I think Charles and Daniel worked together to keep this from you. Daniel. I could barely think his name anymore without my heart twisting. The man I had trusted, the man I had loved, had played a part in this. He'd been there, not just with Charles but in this lie. And I didn't know how to feel about it. I wiped my tears, standing straighter. The anger inside me was bubbling up now, and I knew I had to channel it. I want to know everything. I want to know what happened to Emma. I want to know why. Jack nodded. I'll do what I can. But you need to be careful. We're dealing with people who have a lot of influence. They have a way of making things disappear. I looked at him, determination in my eyes. I don't care about their influence anymore. I want the truth. All of it. Jack gave a small, approving nod. All right. Let's figure out where Emma is. We spent the next few days trying to track down more information. Jack contacted hospitals, adoption agencies, anyone who might know something about Emma. He even reached out to a few private sources who had dealt with Charles and his family's connections. Meanwhile, I sat in my small apartment, replaying every memory I had of my life with Charles, the monster I had been forced to marry. I went through everything I could remember, hoping something would stand out, hoping I'd remember some clue, some detail that might point me toward my daughter. Then the call came. It was Jack. "We've found something," he said, voice grim. "I need you to meet me at a place." We arrived at a small, nondescript house on the outskirts of town. It was quiet, tucked away from prying eyes, surrounded by trees. Jack led me to the back door, where an older woman was waiting. She looked nervous, but her face softened when she saw me. "Margaret," she said. "I'm Claire. I've been trying to find you." She motioned for us to come inside. As we entered, I noticed a stack of papers on the table, medical records, court papers, and a folder that said, Emma's adoption. "Claire, what's all this?" I asked, my heart racing. Claire sighed. "I was Emma's foster mother. She was brought to me when she was just a baby. I didn't know her full story at first. But over time, I started to see things that didn't make sense. The adoption was rushed, and the birth parents' information was vague. But after everything that happened, I began to connect the dots. I felt my blood run cold. I think Emma's still alive, Margaret. And I think she's somewhere close." My hands tightened around the edge of the table. "Close?" I whispered. "What do you mean, close? Where is she?" Claire looked at me with eyes that were both soft and haunted. She was placed with a family just 2 towns from here. The adoption was made to look official, but it wasn't legal. Not completely. I tried to file a report when I realized something was wrong. But people got involved. Important people. The kind that can make things disappear. I felt like the floor was tilting under me. All this time my daughter, Emma, had been living just miles away. And I'd never known. Never seen her. Never felt her presence. Tears welled in my eyes. Do you know her name now? The family she's with. Claire nodded. The family changed her name. She goes by Emily now. Emily Carter. She's 13. 13. My heart skipped. I had missed 13 years of her life. Her first words. Her first steps. Her first birthday. All of it stolen by Charles, by Daniel, by the lies they built around me. Jack leaned forward. Where is this family now? Claire's expression darkened. They moved last year. But not far. They live on the edge of Millbrook, about 30 minutes north. I could barely think. My legs were ready to run. I need to see her, I whispered. I need to go. Now. Claire hesitated. Margaret, this is delicate. The Carters don't know the truth. I mean, they might know something, but they've raised her since she was a baby. If you just show up, it could cause a lot of trouble. Maybe even scare her. Jack nodded. We have to be smart. If we go charging in, we could lose everything. Legally and emotionally. But she's my daughter. I cried, my voice cracking. Don't I have the right to see her? To tell her who I am? Jack's voice softened. You do. But the way you go about this will decide whether you stay in her life or are kept away forever. The truth of that stung worse than anything else. I had to be careful. But how do you stay calm when your baby is out there? Breathing, laughing, living, and doesn't know you exist. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window of my apartment watching the stars, wondering if Emily was doing the same. Did she like books? Was she artistic like me? Did she have my eyes? My smile? I opened my old sketchbook and began to draw the only thing I could think of. A little girl's face with big brown eyes and a warm smile. I didn't know what she looked like, but I drew from my heart what I hoped she looked like. When I finished, I whispered, I'm coming for you. The next day, Jack and I drove to Millbrook. He had tracked down the Carter family's address. A quiet house in a peaceful neighborhood, with a garden out front and a wind chime on the porch. It didn't look like a place built on secrets. It looked ordinary. We parked across the street, staying low in the car. And then I saw her. A girl with long dark hair came outside holding a small brown dog. She was laughing, tossing a ball in the air. Her eyes crinkled when she smiled. My breath caught in my throat. It was her. I knew it. She looked like my mother. She had my nose. My chin. She was mine. I couldn't stop staring. Jack placed a hand on my shoulder. That's her, Margaret. I nodded, eyes filled with tears. She's beautiful. Then the front door opened. A man and woman stepped outside, both in their 40s. The woman called, Emily. Dinner's ready, sweetie. Coming, she called back, running toward them with her dog. The woman, Emily's adoptive mother, put her arm around the girl and kissed her head as they stepped back inside. I watched them disappear into the house. That should have been me. That was supposed to be me. Later that night, back at the motel, Jack and I debated what to do next. We can't tell them yet, he said. Not without a lawyer. Not without preparation. If we blow this, they could shut you out legally. Forever. I knew he was right. But that didn't make it easier. Suddenly my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice came through the speaker. You found her, didn't you? My blood turned to ice. Who is this? But I knew. Daniel. He chuckled, low and cold. You always were too curious for your own good. What do you want? I spat. I want you to understand what's coming, he said. You think you've won? You think you can just steal her back? You don't know what you're messing with, Margaret. She's my daughter, I hissed. She's not just your daughter, he whispered. She's worth more than you could ever imagine. What are you talking about? I asked, voice trembling. He laughed again. You really think Charles just wanted a wife? This was never about you. It was always about the child. Your bloodline. Your value. You were a pawn in something much bigger. My heart pounded. You're insane. Maybe, he said. But I'm not finished. Not yet. The call ended. Jack stood up slowly, his face pale. We need to go. I turned to him. What does he mean she's worth something? I don't know, Jack said. But we're not just fighting Charles anymore. We're fighting something else. Something darker. That night, I sat alone in bed. holding the sketch I had drawn of Emma. A storm was coming, and I was ready to face it, because no matter what it took, I was going to bring my daughter home. The flames lit up the night sky like a terrible sunset. I stood frozen in the middle of the road, staring at the house burning in front of me. The house where Emma, was supposed to be. My legs refused to move. My lungs felt crushed. All I could do was whisper her name. Emma. Jack jumped out of the car and ran toward the house, shouting to the neighbors. Call the fire department. Now. His voice cut through the chaos like a siren. I stumbled forward, the heat from the flames pushing against my skin. Was she inside? Was I too late? Suddenly, someone grabbed my hand. A girl, covered in ash, tears streaming down her face, breathing hard. Are you her? She asked. Are you Margaret? I couldn't speak. I could only stare at her. Those eyes. My eyes. Yes, I finally choked out. I'm your mother. She sobbed and threw her arms around me. I dropped to my knees, holding her, rocking her, crying so hard I thought my body would break in half. I saw you on the video, she whispered. I knew you were telling the truth. I knew it. You're safe now, I whispered. I've got you. No one's ever going to hurt you again. The fire had been set in the back of the house. Jack suspected arson immediately. The Carters weren't home. They'd left Emily with a neighbor for a few hours. That's when the fire started. Daniel's message was clear. If I can't control her, no one can. But he failed. We had her. And this time I wasn't running. I was fighting back. In the days that followed, we filed for immediate emergency custody. Ava's coverage of the fire, combined with the evidence Jack had recovered before the break-in, helped our case explode across national media. People rallied behind us. The Carters, once part of the silence, came forward to admit they had been pressured into adopting Emily under suspicious conditions. They had believed she'd been abandoned, lied to just like me. It wasn't easy. There were interviews, court hearings, background checks, psych evaluations. But eventually, the judge looked at me and said the words I never thought I'd hear. You are granted full legal custody of your daughter, Emma Margaret Fletcher. I cried in the courtroom. So did Jack. So did Emma. We had one. But more importantly, we were together. Months passed. Emma and I moved to a quiet house near the coast of Georgia. A place with open windows, soft sunlight, and a little garden that she waters every morning. She loves music. She paints just like me. She's shy but strong. And sometimes when she looks at me, I see the tiniest flicker of peace in her eyes. I know healing will take time for both of us, but we're healing together. As for Daniel, he vanished. After the fire, there were sightings, rumors. He used fake names, fake passports. But Jack's not giving up. The investigation is still open. And now, with federal eyes on the case, Daniel's time is running out. Monsters don't get to hide forever. Sometimes I lie awake at night, Emma sleeping in the next room, and I think about the girl I used to be. The girl forced to marry a man she didn't love. The girl who was silenced, beaten, broken. And then, I think about the woman I became. The woman who survived. The woman who fought back. The woman who found her daughter. And now, the woman who tells her story so others can find their voice too. Because if I could speak to every girl out there, every woman trapped, every survivor afraid, I'd say this. You are not weak for staying. You are not broken for being afraid. But you are powerful the moment you choose to fight. And you are never, ever alone. Thank you for listening to my story. If my voice reached you, touched you, gave you strength, then please, backhand index pointing right medium skin tone subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you don't miss more powerful, true stories of survival and hope. Speech balloon, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever fought through something you thought would destroy you. And always remember, even when they try to silence you, your voice is your power.